All right, everyone, welcome to our property management portion of the REO and Short Sales Mastery Program. This portion is very important because one of the most important things that you can do as an agent is manage that property and maintain the property because the outsourcer is not in your state, right? So I'm going to break this module down into two parts. We're going to do initial services. That's anything that's going to happen after we've first taken the property back and it's been found vacant. And then we're going to go over what ongoing services would be, okay? So with our initial services, we're basically prepping the home for the market and getting it ready for valuations. So this is our first pass. It's the first time we've been in the home. And the very first thing we want to do is we want to rekey that property, okay? So we're going to rekey any main door. And typically, depending on what outsourcer you're working on or with, and depending on what client you're representing, they may have a national vendor that's going to do this rekey, and we'll have very specific instructions that you'll have to coordinate with them. Or they may say this is something that you need to arrange through your own vendor. So make sure you understand what the rules are and what the expectations are. But I'm basically going to just walk through this, and I'm going to say we're going to go through a very general practice, and then we can dive in to national vendors or to things you're doing on your own at another time. But I want to make sure we just cast a big enough net that everybody gets caught up in it. Okay, so for our initial services, the very first thing we want to do, we want to rekey the property, and then once we have a copy of that new key, we want to make additional copies. Okay, vendors tend to walk away with the keys quite often, and we don't want to go out and have to pay for multiple rekeys when we can just get a copy made for a couple bucks. After the home has been secured, we're going to trash it out. I'm going to show you a picture of that. And then we're going to start our lawn care. Now, lawn care is basically going to go by whatever the outsourcer's service schedule is. And I'll show you an example of the Fannie Mae schedule for lawn care. And that's what most people do. You'll find that everybody's just copying everybody else. So we're going to go over what that schedule is for the lawn care and then also for the winterization, right? So there are some states that never have to be winterized. There are some that have to be winterized between a certain period of time. We're going to go over that as well, and then we'll have that available to you as a separate PDF so you can reference your state, all right? And then, of course, we're going to do a sales clean. Sales clean will come after the trash out, and when we go through a sales clean, like, we're not looking for something to be, I mean, we're really not looking for spotless. That would be ideal. But with sales clean, most outsourcers are going to define a sales clean as vacuuming the carpets, or at least sweeping the carpets, sweeping up all the dirt, debris, everything from the linoleum, hardwood, clearing the house of debris, and then basically washing with soap and water. Like, that's the definition for the majority of outsourcers, is that we just need to clean it with soap and water. So what I've always suggested is the easiest thing to do is just have Clorox wipes with you, or something like Clorox wipes, because they're disposable, and then they also kill a lot of the bacteria and germs, and they may leave things with a little bit of a sticky feel, but it's going to show well, it's going to smell well, and you're also preserving that property better. But each outsourcer is going to define what their definition of a sales clean is. So just make sure you understand what they're defining as that. Swimming pool, that's not going to be applicable in every area, but each outsourcer is going to have a set of instructions for a swimming pool. Now, whether that is something that is a flat fee, and they know that with every property, if there happens to be a pool, we're going to lock the gate, we're going to cover it with a chicken wire grate, or we're going to drain it, or we're going to clean it. Whatever it is, just make sure you understand what the outsourcer and what the client wants you to do with those swimming pools. And then the very last one, this is kind of a broad stroke, but we're basically going to make sure that the property is safe and secure. Okay, so safe and secure just means we're going to address any issues like broken windows, missing doors. I've been in some properties where we're missing a deck off the back of the upstairs bedroom, so we wanted to deadbolt that and take the lock off it, or remove the key so that people couldn't get out, right? Couldn't get out there and fall off that second floor. You may address some environmental concerns here too, like if we see a whole bunch of mold or discoloration, or if there's like drugs in the house, things like that, then we definitely would escalate that to the asset manager. But for the most part, in the safe and secure, we're really just looking for any any safety issues, and then we're making sure that the property is 100% secure from the outside elements, right? So we're making sure that the broken windows, doors, things like that are boarded. If there's a hole in the roof, that's been at least patched, if not, well, I guess patched. You could put whatever you have to do to stop water and things from coming in. And then make sure you have your lockbox on it and things like that. Rekey is part of the secure. Okay. So most outsourcers are going to ask you to use a mechanical key box. And the reason why they do that, so here's an example of one. They've put this on the door. You would expect to see this mechanical box somewhere and then also see a super box. We like the super box, but not everybody has access, and so that's why they do it. The mechanical box is primarily for your clients and also for your vendors, right? When VRM sends people out to do property inspections, we don't have access to Supras, so we need to use a mechanical box. And you're going to see conformity across the client where they may say, hey, every single box needs to be coded to VRM or whatever it is, right? That way, anybody that's representing the outsourcer can go out and access the property. We can also give that number to the clients, so when they go and do their property inspections, they can get in the home. And then also for our vendors that are out there doing our initial services and our rekeys and our cleaning and things like that, they have access without needing Supra access. But then I'm always advising my agents to have a Supra for your showings, because you're going to have monthly marketing reports and things like that due later on in the process, and you want to have a track record of everybody that's been in and out of that property, okay? And I've already said it before, but I cannot stress it enough. Make extra keys, right? The worst thing that could happen is that, well, grain of salt, not the worst thing, but it's not going to look well for you if the outsourcer has done property inspections and we go out and there's no key in that mechanical box, okay? If that's the case, you're probably going to get, not fined, but you're going to get a dock on your inspection. It's going to be points against you, and that could ultimately reflect on you and your score. So make extra keys. Like I said, it's a lot easier to just replace a key than it is to get the property rekeyed, okay? All right, so trash out. This is a great example of a trash out, because the home itself, when it has been trashed out, is still not in the best condition, but this is exactly what you're expecting to see from a trash out. So the picture on the left assumes that there is no personal property that needs to be evicted, or personal property eviction has already taken place. And we've now come in with our crew, and the crew has basically just taken everything and literally put it in bags, and they're taking it to the dump, okay? So they've taken this whole bookshelf, the screen, everything on the counter, the lamp, it looks like a chair back there, the behind, we can see the back of a TV. They've taken everything and trashed it out, but they've left the closet doors in the back. And now once everything's gone, we can see this epoxy floor, okay? This is what it should look like when you do a trash out, and then a sales clean would come through and they would wipe down that counter, and then we would probably mop that floor. That's what we'd ask them to do. With your lawn care, this example on the left is very typical of what you're going to see the first time you go out there, because one of the first things people do when they go into foreclosures, they just stop taking care of their property, right? And then eventually we have this big, huge mess that looks like the jungle's trying to take the property back. So with the initial services, there may be limitations on how much they'll do, because this picture on the left here, this is a lot of work for a preservation company. So for the most part, they're going to have guidelines on what they will and won't do, and that's considered in scope or out of scope things. So they may say, hey, we're going to go out and we'll do any kind of, it doesn't matter how tall the grass is, we'll go out and we'll do up to 15,000 square feet as part of our initial services. And then anything outside of that, we would need to be paid extra for. Your outsourcer is going to have guides to that, and that's going to differ from everybody. So just be aware of that when Prop Pres goes out, or when you're assigned to have somebody go take care of the lawn, there are going to be restrictions onto how much blanket approval the vendors have when they go out and complete the work. And sometimes in a scenario like this on the left, they may come back and say, hey, this grass is a lot higher than we thought, and we need a little bit of extra money. If that comes up, you're just going to take pictures of it and escalate it to the asset manager or repair specialist, or you may be working with the pre-list specialist in this scenario, and that's fine. Just whoever your point of contact is at this phase, this is the pre-list phase, whoever that point of contact is, you're just going to get them over as many photos as you can. And then something to document the height of the weeds, right? So we have this guy here standing there after he's cut most of it down. Well, if he was standing there as a reference, I could see that some of these weeds are as tall as him, and he looks to be a tall guy. So, okay, so that's our initial lawn care. They're basically going to go around, and with the lawn care, we want to make sure that they're going through and they're cutting the grass like they have here, and then we get the clippings off of the lawn. Now with this one, you may get some kickback from an outsourcer. If they were finished on this one, we'd probably ask them to go back out and trim up the weeds. You can see right by his shins there running along the base of the house. Okay, and then we've got some on the fence down here. Winterization is a big one. So basically what an outsourcer is going to do is they say, hey, look, during a certain period of time, if your property is located in this state, we're just going to winterize the property. And all winterization means is that we're draining the home from the water, and then we're adding antifreeze. Okay, so we want to have that done by the same person. And one of the questions we primarily get is, okay, that's great, the property's been winterized, but what about if I'm selling to somebody and they have to do inspections? That's no problem. We can de-winterize the property and then winterize it again and then de-winterize it when they move in. Okay, so we're not going to do it constantly. What you would want to do is you would want to coordinate your inspection with whoever did the winterization, so they can get out there, they can de-winterize the property, the inspection can be completed, and then they can winterize the property again. Okay, but that's really all we're doing. We're just draining the water, right? We're draining the water out of the system. We're blowing air out of the system. I couldn't find a really good picture to show that we're basically blowing all excess water out, and then we're just dumping antifreeze in. And the advantage of these pictures here, this is exactly what what a vendor is going to send an outsourcer to get reimbursed. Because otherwise, I mean, we could just tape up this toilet here and say, hey, this property's been winterized. They actually will take action photos of them draining the water and action photos of them dumping the antifreeze in, so they can basically prove that they have done it. Now the key is that every time you do your inspections, you want to make sure that they've got these things noted. So they got the tape across the toilet, across the sink, that they've got instructions on the hot water heater. They basically say, hey, this property's been winterized, please don't do anything with the plumbing because we've got the antifreeze in there and the system's basically been shut down. Okay. Now here's an example. This could also be an example of a trash out, but this was the closest thing I could find to a really good sales clean without finding any kind of updates. So with this picture on the left here, you see we've got some personal items. They've been trashed out and they've been removed. And the one on the right, we haven't done any updates, right? We still have horrible wallpaper back there. We've got old blinds. It's just been cleaned. And that's really what we're looking for. Is we're looking for a wipe down. We're looking to make sure that everything is clean. And part of that sales clean is going to include vacuuming. Some outsourcers may say it's including shampooing the carpets, although I have never seen it. Like, I've seen that in SORs where, not SORs, but SLAs, the service level agreements. I've seen them say, yeah, you're going to shampoo every carpet, and then outsourcers or vendors will be like, yeah, okay, we'll do it, and I've never seen anybody actually do it. So in the real world, what you're expecting to see is we'd want to see that carpet vacuumed, and if it can't be vacuumed, we want to see it broom swept, and that literally means just sweeping everything off with a broom. You'll find this especially for some of your older carpet, the flat carpet. That's fine because you just want it to get off there, and you want the home to be appealing even if it's not in wonderful condition, right? Like, so this home on the right, it definitely needs some updates. But if I'm walking through there as a buyer or as an outsourcer and I'm inspecting the property, I'm very pleased with it because there's nothing offensive about it. I can start seeing what I would need to do if I was to update it or if I was to live there. But this one on the left is so dirty that I may not want to be in the house for very long, okay? That's our sales clean. And then, like I said, with the pool service, like, I'm in Utah. This isn't really a big deal up in Utah, but down in Florida, you're going to have issues with this, Nevada, Arizona. So basically what we're going to want to do with the pool is this would be ideal in every scenario because the pool should be a selling feature. But there's a cost to maintain that, right? So there's a cost initially to go out and shock the pool, do the cleaning, clean the pump, service the pump, do all that stuff. Refill it, which is going to be a big water bill, and then you've got monthly maintenance on it. And you may have an outsourcer that says, look, that's just too much for us. We don't want to do it. So there's a couple different things that they're going to do, but where the pool becomes very important is in places like Las Vegas, you will get fines for having a green pool because it invites mosquitoes, okay? So for the most part, the outsourcer is going to say, hey, we're going to do a couple things. We're either going to clean the pool, or we're going to drain the pool, or we're going to just cover the pool tight. Okay, so that's a couple things you could do with that. And then in this picture, we can see the fence going around. We want to make sure that it is secure. The fence is secure, so we don't have any concerns with kids. So this is a very good example. This is an REO pool cover, and that's all it is. It's just 2x4s and chicken wire, right? Like that's a really good REO pool cover, and that's what you're going to see for the most part. Now, ideally, they would have drained this out as low as possible, so that we don't get that buildup right there, because that can still, I mean, that's a mosquito breeding ground right there, and we'd probably get some city fines if somebody saw it. But what the outsourcer is primarily concerned with is safety with those pools, and there are no kids falling through this thing. Okay, so that's really what you're looking at is that you may have a pool cover. Now, if an outsourcer says we're going to cover the pool, don't expect it to be anything more sophisticated than this, because this is really cheap to produce and can be done very quickly. Now, we talked about boarding, and this is an example of that. So when we're doing safe, sound, and secure, in this scenario on the left, we had a broken window down below, and then we had something with the door, and they've said, hey, look, we're just going to board the whole thing. Okay, that's what we want to see. It's okay that the windows on the left are not boarded because there's no access to the home. Now, the example on the right shows a couple things. It shows our mechanical box, which is exactly what we'd want. They've boarded this window, and then when they boarded the window, they posted the no trespassing sign. And that's something that you're going to check for during your not your initial services, your ongoing services, is to make sure that all of your notices are still posted, right? Like your no trespassing is posted, your contact information is posted, and then most outsourcers will want to see a sign for the vendor that's in charge of property preservation, so that if there is some kind of violation and a code enforcer goes out, or neighborhood watch or something like that goes out, and they see that the property has something that's a concern, they would have a contact information that they could call them up and they could get it resolved. Okay, this is our property inspection checklist, and the property inspection checklist, this is a very generic form that I've designed. And if your outsourcer has any forms that they want you to use, you're definitely going to want to use those so that they sync up with whatever is in their system and whatever expectations they have. This is generic, but it's also meant to be to cast a very big net to capture everything that you're going to experience, or the majority of the things you're going to experience when you go to inspect a property on a weekly basis. Okay, if you were pressed, you could use this as a property sign-off sheet when a prop pres company is done with their initial services. However you choose to use it is up to you. I designed it really as just an ongoing property inspection checklist so that we make sure that we're signing off on everything inside the house, everything outside the house, and then really to make sure that we've got kind of just a guide or a checklist that we can have for the photos, to make sure that we're getting photos and we're getting enough information to document the condition of the property properly, and really protect you in the event that something goes wrong with the property, so that you can show when it happened and kind of make sure that you're not at fault, and make sure that nobody comes back to you expecting you to take care of your payment on it. Okay, so a couple things with the form, pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to walk through it. Up here we've got our asset ID. This could be your REO ID. Each outsourcer is going to have a unique number for how they identify their assets. That's great. I just put it as an asset ID, but it's going to be any kind of identifying ID number. I've got the client here, so that if you're working with multiple clients and you're managing multiple assets, that you could complete this for each one of those during your milk run and still know who it's going to. Definitely the asset manager's name, and then the prop pres vendor. So that prop pres company may be a national vendor, right, like REO Allegiance, and it also might be Tom and Cherry down the street. So whoever the vendor is, put their name in there, and then you'll know the next time you go to the property, you could have this sheet with you, and you would have this information already, and you could look to see what they'd done, what they hadn't done, and you could do some follow-up as well. Okay, basic information about the property, including the address, the city, the state. Here's one of your key ones though: date of inspection and time of inspection. So these are going to sync with the photos you take, especially since you're going to be doing date stamped photos, but write it in there also so that you have a record of when you were there, the date you were there, the time that you were there, who inspected it. Just print your name on this and then go ahead and sign it for some accountability, okay? Now, as we move down into this condition report,
We're going to start with the exterior. And really here all we're saying is we're just making sure that the lawn's maintained. And maintained really can be a broad definition, but we're just looking to make sure that the grass has been mowed, that it's been trimmed, that it's on par with the neighborhood yards. If you're in a drought area, that's fine. They can still trim the yard. They can still make sure there's no branches on the grass. They can make sure that the leaves have all been cleared up. So that's what you're looking for. So is the lawn being maintained? Is it free of debris? If it's snowing, has the snow been removed from the sidewalks and the driveway and the steps? You're looking at, is the property secure? So this is a big one. We're not just going to look at the doors. We're going to look and make sure that the fence is secured. So if the property has a fence, is the fence closed? Does it have a lock on it? Are all the windows secured? Are they closed and locked from the inside? And if they're broken, do they have boards in them adequately, right? Is it boarded? Is it safe? Same thing with the doors. Like with the doors, we're going to make sure that they're all locked, that they're all closed, and then any that don't close or are missing, we're going to make sure those are boarded, okay? The pool area is not going to apply to everybody, but if you do have a pool, you want to make sure that that area is secured. Now, you may have this fence right here, and that's securing it. That's fine. That would count too. We just want to make sure that nobody can get to the pool. And if the fence is broken, you definitely want to have the pool covered, or you want to have it drained. So feel free to write on these. Like, let's say it's not covered, but it's drained. You would just put, no, the pool's not covered. You'd circle that, and then we just write next to it, and we'd say, pool has been drained for safety reasons, right? Okay, no problem with that. So with the lockbox, we're just going to make sure that, now with this lockbox information, this isn't any electronic lockbox. This is really for the mechanical box used by the outsourcer and used by the vendors, right? So when they send a team out to do the inspections, they have very specific instructions about where the box is going to be. So we want to make sure that we're putting it in the correct location, it's set to the correct code, and that we have keys in it that will unlock the door, okay? In the front, we're going to make sure that our no trespassing signs are posted. I put vendor here in case they want you to have different people, but really that's going to be your prop pres company for the most part. That is posted in the window, and that you have client sign-in sheets, right? And then your for sale sign posted. Now, we know that you can't post this on every house. There are some HOA restrictions that will keep you from having an actual yard sign. That's fine. Just make a note of it, and then wherever you can have that sign, we want to make sure that it's there. And if not, at least your contact information posted on the door, okay, or inside a window. And then we're going to look for safety issues. So is the deck secure? Window wells secure? Are they covered? Is the deck in good condition, right? Does it have handrails? Is it falling apart? Is it missing? Anything like that, we're just going to indicate yes, no, or not applicable. And if there is something there, we can write anything out on the side here, or we can come down here and just put these comments or safety issues here, all right? And then we're just going to go inside the house. Now, when we're looking at broom swept condition, we're not saying that the house is to the nines and it's move-in ready. I mean, broom swept condition really means all these things here. That it's free of debris, it's free of junk, the counters are clean, and for an outsourcer, counters clean just means that it's been wiped with soap and water. So a Clorox wipe is going to be just fine for that. Same with appliances. And then we're going to want to make sure that we have a sign-in sheet, the water's on, the power's on, and then we've got some room here so that if, let's say, the power's on, but the power stops at the curb, not the curb, at the breaker, no problem. Just note that so that if somebody is going out and they've okayed it to be off at the breaker, there's like, hey, no problem. I just need to switch the breaker on, and then I've got lights. Okay? And then is it winterized? Is everything posted? Do you notice any leaks? And then this is a big one because we can't tell the condition of the property from the photos, right? So I just want to know what it smells like, right? Does it smell like pet odor? Does it smell like mold? Does it smell, not mold, does it smell like discoloration? Does it smell stale? Do we need to get some air fresheners in there? Do we need to open a window? Kind of what's going on with that. And then the condition of the floor is a big one because we can't tell from the photos if the floor is nasty or if it's pristine. Same with the walls. And then the very last thing that I gave you here is just a checklist. Remember, with these photos, you're taking very clean photos, date stamped photos, and then by all means, if you have to take more than one photo to fully document this, like if you're in the dining room and you can't fit it all in one shot, that's great. Let's make it 2 different photos. Take one from the left, take one from the right. You've got to be able to really demonstrate enough of the property through these photos, right? So we're going to look at the front yard, side yards, the backyards, take a picture of all your notices and your signs and your postings in the yard, on the windows. And then this is just a street view because the asset manager wants to know what it looks like on the street. So I'm basically just going to walk out to the street. I'm going to turn left. I'm going to turn right and take photos of each side. Okay. I'm going to look at the lockbox. I'm going to take a picture of the lockbox location. I'm going to punch the code in that they want me to have, and I'm going to take a picture of that. The garage outbuildings, making sure the doors are open and taking any interior pictures. The pool, the fence, and then inside I'm just going to hit every single room. So that's why I put it like this, is I'm saying, look, just get every single room and then make sure you're getting that sign-in sheet so that they can tell that it's there. But really just hit every room. And then anything that's not covered here, just jot down. If you need to use extra paper, that's fine. Send it in with the photos, right? So again, very generic sheet, but it's more than enough information to deliver outstanding results every time you go inspect a property, which will be once a week.
All right, so if we have any out-of-scope items, we're going to escalate those to the outsourcer for approval. And if you're escalating those, we really just want to make sure we're documenting exactly what we're sending over, why we're sending over the information. And then really we want to reference back to whatever material we have from the outsourcer to show that it truly is out of scope, right? So like if the outsourcer says the max trash out is 30 cubic yards, well, if we wanted an approval for a larger trash out, we would need to show a bin that is 30 cubic yards, completely full of trash, show it loaded, show it going to the dump, and then show that we still have remaining debris after that's been taken away, okay? And we would just escalate that. And I said outsourcer here, not asset manager, because depending on the outsourcer, that may be the person you're escalating to, may be property preservation, it may be a repair specialist, it may be the pre-list coordinator, right? So just to the outsourcer in that. Now, the second step to this is that we're going to go out every single week until the property is sold, and we're going to verify that ongoing services are complete. So with the ongoing services, it's really the exact same as your initial services. We're just removing a couple items, right? So they're still going to go out and they're going to take care of that grass every single week, or we'll look at the schedule because depending on your area, they may be out weekly, they may be out twice a month, they may be out once a month, depending on the time of year and where the property is located. But every time they do go out, they're going to cut the grass. They should be edging or trimming. They're not going to do any kind of landscaping, right? Like they're not going to garden, but a lot of them will pull weeds from the flower beds and make sure that the bushes along the house are a reasonable height, because we don't want to get code violations, right? We're going to make sure that it's still winterized and make sure that the notices are there if the property has been winterized. And then they're going to go out and complete a sales clean, which again is just soap and water. So don't look for things to be spotless. You're really just making sure things are at least clean with soap and water. You're making sure that the pool is secure, it's covered, and if it's not covered, and we're actually advertising the pool, that the area is secure and that the pool is being maintained. And then safe, sound, and secure, right? We're always making sure that the home is boarded, that the locks are all the doors are locked, that the keys are in the lockbox, and that there's no safety issues, no missing handrails, holes in the ceiling, holes in the floor, anything like that. And we're going to do that for the life of the asset. And I think that's where a lot of agents really miss the mark, is that we put one under contract and we forget about it. But this should be added to your milk run, and you should do this every single week. So here's just some things that we're looking for when we go out. And these are good examples. So on this property on the left up here, it's been boarded. There's the bank no trespassing sign. In the middle, I've got my mechanical box. It's open. I can see the keys in it. The picture on the right is a great example of a broken window. Now, this is still dangerous. They should have taken the glass out, because I've got a bunch of jagged edges that someone could get hurt on and they could come back and sue the bank. But to board it up on the inside is exactly what you'd want to do. Down here on the left, I got this dude out there cutting the grass, and this is what you would see in an area like what he's working with. Now, ideally, it would be a little more out of control, but yeah, when it's tall grass, they'll go out there with a weed whacker and just take everything down and then go through with the lawnmower and cut it all up. But you want to make sure they're maintaining the property. And then this picture on the right here, this is a sales clean. I can see the carpet a little bit in the back, and I can tell that it's been at least broom swept, probably vacuumed. And then I look at this, the counters look clean, everything looks really good in this house, okay? the thing I want you guys to remember when you're working with a prop res vendor and when you're working with the asset manager or the outsourcer is that the priority is to preserve the property. Like, that's the number one goal here, right? Like, we're preserving that property. Okay, if I go out and I look at the property and I do my property inspections and the home looks like this, right? I go out and I see, look, it's boarded. I've got no trespassing signs posted. The grass is there, whatever grass is there has been trimmed. The bushes aren't completely out of control. And if I can do that,
congratulations, you're still my agent.
But if we go out and we see this, right?
You're fired.
Okay, weekly property inspections. We want to complete those on every single property, no matter what the status is, and we're going to do that for life, okay? And now you'll be saying, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to make a milk run, okay? If you've never heard the term milk run is basically just a routine or undertaking that is not difficult at all. So in sales, if you were doing a milk run, it's the clients that always buy from you. And when I reference a milk run for property preservation, it just means, hey, I'm going to put a list together of my assets. I know they're all vacant or occupied. I know what's going on with my assets. I'm going to put together this list, and I'm just going to go hit it and make sure that everything's on par with where it's supposed to be. I'm going to take my photos. I'm going to fill out my sheet. Nice and easy job to do, okay? So the way I do a milk run is the exact same way as setting up to show people homes, right? I'm going to put them into my system. I'm going to map it out, and I'm going to find out where the best point is to go. I don't want to go A and then E and then B and then D and then C. I'm just wasting time. And what's embarrassing is I've done that when I went and did property inspections and I didn't know the area and I just picked random houses and I said, okay, let's go see this one. And next thing I know, I'm driving back and forth across Vegas all day instead of being efficient. So you want to map all the properties and put an efficient route together. If these were my homes that I had to go do property inspections on every week, no problem. I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E, and I'm done. And then I'm back to the freeway and off to work, okay? Now, when we go out there, we're going to verify that those ongoing services are being complete, and that's everything that we went over. The lawn care, that the property is still winterized and has all the notices posted, that they're completing the sales clean, they're taking care of the swimming pool, and that the property itself is just safe and secure, okay? We're going to make sure that all these things are in place as we go out. Make sure that there are no potential for code violations, HOA violations, failed property inspections from the outsourcer or from the client, or any safety issues, right? We're going to report back the condition of the property after every property inspection. And if there is a problem like this thing hasn't been kept up in a long time, then we want to get the property preservation vendor out there immediately, okay? You want to cultivate a relationship with every vendor in your area so that they know who you are, they like working with you, and you can get a response from them. So if the house looked like this, we can call them up and say, hey, Tom, you got to get out there. This house looks like shit. We're gonna fail our inspection. People aren't gonna want to work with us, and then Tom's gonna get out there with his lawnmower and he's gonna take care of it. Okay, that's the ideal scenario. Is you're gonna get the property preservation out there immediately, and if you can't get them out there, we're gonna blow the whistle and we're gonna tell the outsourcer. Okay. Now, here's a challenge, right? Like, not every outsourcer is gonna jump on this, or they may not have the ability to. So, if your request falls on deaf ears, I'm asking you to fix it. Okay. I learned this trick from the Manzuri group in California, and this was like 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. These guys came in and did an amazing presentation, and the one thing that stuck out with me was they came in and they said this. They said they take a broker emergency kit with them. And I said, all right, tell me what your broker emergency kit is. And it was exactly this. They go around with a lawnmower, an edger, garbage bag, cleaning supplies, and work boots, and if something's not done at a property, they take care of it themselves. Right? We sent these guys millions of dollars worth of listings because they went out and they just took care of the property, and that's what we need, okay? Point fingers, resolve issues after the property issues have been fixed, but take care of the property. That's your priority, okay? Your priority is preserving the asset and making sure that it looks well, because, guys, we don't want code violations, we don't want fines, we don't want to be an eyesore or a burden on the community, right? Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for that property. Like, I know we say it's your storefront, and it is. It's your storefront, and it's going to be how you get business, but it's also your responsibility to make sure that property is being maintained. And if we can't get the prop pres vendor out there, and we can't get the asset management company to listen to us, then the onus falls on us to take care of the property. Okay? This is what it should be like. We go out and we see this, though, guys, right? Unkept, broken window, trash, debris. You're going to get fired on this, and nobody wants that. And worst of all, you may be responsible for code violations. Okay? If I don't go out and inspect my property every week, if I haven't raised a flag to the outsourcer, if I haven't emailed photos over and called them and said, hey, you got to do something to help me out. This property looks like shit. It's overgrown. They haven't been out there for months. Well, when I get that code violation, the operations is going to turn around and they're going to look at you as the agent. They're going to say, why didn't you take care of this? And they're going to try to pass that on to you. Okay? That's why we do these inspections. That's why it's so important that we do these inspections every single week. We take date-stamped photos, and we fill out our property inspection checklist so that if they came back, we're like, no, we've gone out every week, and I told you about this, and here's the evidence. I've emailed this to you. I sent it through the system. So the way that I always looked at this prop pres stuff is it's part of business, right? It's part of your business. Now, you may choose to be in a high-rise office decked out to the nines with a personal assistant, nice desk, nice chair, all that stuff. That's a business expense, right? And if it were me and I was committed to being the best REO agents that I could, I would have somebody on staff. If I couldn't, I would do it myself. I would have once a week where I'd go out with my broker emergency kit and I would hit all my properties and I would cut that grass. And I'm lying when I say me. I've got a nephew. I could pay him $10 a lawn, and the kid would go out and he'd do these all summer, right? And that's an expense. That's going to be part of my expense because I'm in charge of the property. It's my storefront, and I've got a reputation, and I'm going to maintain it. If you have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. Send me some messages. Let's dive into this a little more. And if not, I appreciate your time and attention. I appreciate you taking care of your properties. It's a big deal. Let's give us all good rep out there by taking care of properties and removing the eyesores. All right? So let me know whatever questions you have, and I'll see you on the next module.